welcome to Novellathon. So I'm really excited to start Novellathon. It's about 9:30 a.m. and I got dressed in some comfy clothes and I have a breakfast here all ready to go. I'm gonna have a croissant and I have some, this is actually coffee, but don't worry, I'm sure later in the day I will want a cup or two or three of tea. And I have some strawberries to munch on while I read. If I can, I'll probably just end up reading and the strawberries will sit out, but whatever. And then of course I have my pile of books to read for Novellathon. So I think I am actually going to start out with Margaret the First because I've heard such great things about it and it's been sitting in my room this past week and I've been dying to read it. So I'll start with this over a lovely breakfast and I'll get back to you guys soon. So it's about 1 o'clock and I've just finished Margaret the First by Danielle Dutton. I absolutely loved it. I had hoped that I would read it a little quicker than I did, but I just fell in love with the language. I kept reading lines over and over again. I got really comfy with my blankets here and sort of took a nap at one point. And yes, but this book is fantastic. If you were a fan of historical fiction, I would highly, highly recommend it. It's about the life of Margaret Cavendish, and it's inspired by her life, her writings, and as well as Virginia Woolf's A Room of One's Own, in which she mentions Margaret Cavendish at one point. And this book is said by the author to be fiction, but it's one of those historical fictions where it takes a lot from real life and it takes a lot from history and from research, and it's inspired by, actuality. So there are lines of Margaret's own writing within this book. Danielle Dutton paints this character who is imaginative, who goes against the grain, who is complex and seemingly comes before her time. And of course, that might just be, Danielle Dutton projecting onto this character and, projecting modern ideals of feminism onto this character. But it was just fantastic. So I highly, highly recommend this book. I am now going to start another book, The Driver's Seat by Muriel Spark. It will be my first Muriel Spark book, and I'm really excited. So I'm going to go read that. Perhaps I will eat lunch or maybe even a snack at some point, though I'm not really hungry. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. So it's around 1:30 and I finished 2 chapters of The Driver's Seat by Muriel Spark. It is so far a really interesting character study about a woman named Lise who is going on vacation to, we are not sure where yet, but she is at the airport. I also took the liberty of fixing myself a bit of a snack. I made some little cracker crisp spreads with avocado on them. I don't think you can see at that angle, but that's okay. And I made a nice cup of tea, which I was really craving. It's Raspberry Royale tea by Bigelow. It's one of my favorites. It's really hard to find black tea that is fruity. I feel like most fruity teas are all herbal, and I much prefer black tea, so this is wonderful. And I also am having a little black licorice because I love black licorice. I know it's weird and it's not very good for your teeth at all, but it's so good. So I'm going to go back to eating and reading, and I will talk to you later. So it is around 3 o'clock and I just finished Muriel Spark's The Driver's Seat, and it was fantastic. I am doing a really good job of picking novellas to read during this Novellathon. 2 for 2 so far. So yes, it was a shocking little book, and it just reminded me why I wanted to do Novellathon and why I wanted to read short works. The first 2 chapters of the synopsis that I gave you, that it was, a character study, that was very misleading. Actually, the first sentence of the 3rd chapter sort of set up the plot and set up what it was going to be like, and It is a whodunit, which I don't know if Muriel Spark coined that word herself, but it is featured in the novella, and that's really the best way to describe this book. And I just want to read you one of the quotes on the back of this book, because I think it summarizes my experience with this book pretty completely. Some of her finest fictions are novellas rather than novels, short enough to be read in a single dizzying sitting. The driver's seat is an exemplary case, an extraordinary tour de force, a crime story turned inside out. David Lodge. So yes, a crime story turned inside out is exactly what it is. That sort of goes along with the whodunit. And single dizzying sitting is a perfect descriptor of my reading experience. Muriel Spark's writing is so vivid and detail-oriented without being flowery in any way, and it was just wonderful. So yes, I highly recommend it, and I think I will take a half-hour break and then move on to the Pearl. I think I want to read the Pearl next, because as one of my subscribers told me, it is a novella classic and a must-read. So it is now 6:30 and I have finished The Pearl. No, it didn't take me that whole time to read a 96-page book. My roommates came home and distracted me a little. My friend came over and we chatted for a bit, even though she was coming over to join me with Novellathon. That didn't really work out so well. But that's okay. I had a nice little chat with her. We relaxed, and I did indeed finish The Pearl. I loved it. It is everything I love about classics condensed into this short, delightful novella. It is about a poor family who discovers a pearl, and with the pearl they're hoping to achieve wealth and riches and good fortune and happiness, and instead the pearl is a curse on their family. And you see how the story plays out from there. Now, I can't tell if I preferred The Pearl or Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men, which is another novella that I'm not reading today, but I have read in the past, and I love that book. It has such a delightful, well, not delightful. For those of you who have read the book, not delightful. But it has a plot twist at the end, and highly recommend that you read it if you haven't before, and if no one has spoiled that plot twist for you, because it's a fantastic book, as is this one. So you really can't go wrong with Steinbeck's super short novels, I guess. Novellas, obviously. So yeah, I think I am going to make myself some dinner, and then I'm not sure what I'll read next. It'll be a surprise. I'll let you know after I finish it. So dinner was delicious. I tried to decide what I wanted to read next, and I was being very, very indecisive. So I decided to organize some of my school supplies that I had laying around the apartment, which was productive, but not reading. So then I showered, and now I'm in PJs. See? Yes. And I finally picked which book I want to read. We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. And I tried reading it, but I am only on page 19 because roommates like to talk to their boyfriends loudly. So Novellathon has migrated into my room, and I even brought my candle and a cup of tea. So back to reading. So I got about 50 pages in to We Have Always Lived in the Castle, and I fell asleep, because that is what I do when I read in my bed late at night. But then I woke up and took out my contacts because I don't want to go blind. Yeah, and it's around 4 a.m. and now I can't go to sleep, and the house is nice and quiet, and I will go back to reading outside in the living room again. Good morning. It is 8 a.m. on Friday, and I am going to call Novellathon over. I did finish 3 novellas: Margaret the First, The Driver's Seat, and The Pearl, and I call that a success because they were fantastic. I had a great time reading them. If you guys have not figured it out, I am much more of a morning person than a night person. I fell asleep again, and I only got through half of We Have Always Lived in the Castle, but I'm really enjoying it so far. It's about a very quirky family with a secret or a mystery to solve. It is not solved yet, obviously. And I feel like even though I've heard a lot about this on BookTube, I didn't really know anything about it going in. And I think that's a good thing. So for those of you who don't know anything about this book, I'm just going to read the inside flat because I think that's all you should know. My name is Mary Catherine Blackwood. I am 18 years old and I live with my sister Constance. I have often thought that with any luck at all, I could have been born a werewolf because the 2 middle fingers on both my hands are the same length, but I have had to be content with what I had. I dislike washing myself and dogs and noise. I like my sister Constance and Richard Plantagenet. And Amanita phalloides, the death cup mushroom. Everyone else in my family is dead. You will be wondering about that sugar bowl, I imagine. Is it still in use? You are wondering, has it been cleaned? You may very well ask, was it thoroughly washed? So that last bit is part of the mystery that I won't get into, but it's great so far. All of these novellas have been great. I did some really good picking, if I do say so myself. So no more Novellathon vlog, but I will continue to read these books. And I'm curious to hear from you guys. How was your Novellathon if you participated? And if you didn't participate, I encourage you to pick up a novella. You can get through it in one sitting, a few hours if you focus. And yes, have you read any of the books that I finished? I would love to have a deeper conversation in the comments down below. And if you are going to pick up a novella, I would love to know which novella you're going to pick up. It doesn't have to be one of the ones that was on my reading list. I am definitely open to learning about more novellas because they are quite fun. And yes, so happy reading. I hope you enjoyed this little vlog, and I'll see you in a more formal video soon. Bye!